All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here really quick. Before we go and dive into our session, I know we still have a lot of people coming in. I wanted to just quickly review these slides. So welcome everyone to this Indiana Doug meetup. If you are not familiar with Doug, it is a Dynamics user group. It is a very large community, very empowering, and it's awesome because it's a free community to be a part of. So far, there are 45,000 community members, and that number is rapidly growing. So if you ever have a technical question, you can begin to ask questions and get in on the conversation. Also, a lot of community members are very active on platforms such as LinkedIn. Happy to assist and post a lot of really great content. If you found this, you obviously are aware of meetups. So meetups are going to be the place where we connect. With Dynamics User Group, every state does have a user group. If you are looking on the Meetup platform and do not see one and you're interested in leading one, you can do that. So this is the Indiana user group. Obviously, if you're not from Indiana, that is fine. You are welcome here because this is an online event. However, sometimes we do have in-person events, so it becomes a little bit more challenging. And that's kind of where, looking for your state's meetup would be beneficial for you. And Dynamics User Group does a lot of different things. So this session is related to the Power Platform, but if you are also in the Dynamics space, so Business Central, CE, F&O, GP, those are all things that are considered in Dynamics User Group. There's things such as conferences, webinars. There's a YouTube channel. There's so much. And you can find out more at dynamicsusergroup.com. So a lot of great resources out there. And if you are in any of these areas, these are regional meetups. So what a regional meetup is essentially a meetup just like this on a much larger scale. It's kind of like a meetup and a conference mashed together. They are usually 1 day to 2 day events. And it's just a day of learning for you to connect with community, etc. So a few of them have already passed and some are in flight. These are also constantly evolving and they're constantly adding more. And a few last things. If you are one to go to conferences, Dynamics Con Live, which is now Dynamics Con, is going to be in Chicago next year, May 13th through 16th. This is an excellent conference. It's one of my favorites to go to every single year, so I definitely recommend going. If you are interested in going to Dynamics Con in Chicago, I do have a 50% off promo code to register for Dynamics Con 2025. I'll put in the chat. This code expires on September 30th, I believe. So, if you're interested, this will be the lowest price for this conference. I highly recommend, using this to get a lot of money off. If you don't have the means to go to an in-person conference, Dynamics Con Virtual is coming up this November 13th. This is a free virtual conference. Voting is actually open right now for sessions. So if you go to dynamicscon.com and then go to virtual, you'll be able to vote for sessions. This is completely community-led, led and fed, I guess. So if you see a session that you're very interested in, I would go and vote for it. Really great, awesome virtual conference, 1 day, and it's free. All right, that being said, welcome to the meetup, everyone. I will turn it over and we can get the actual content started.
Was that a cue for me to start?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it going. So, Savannah, thanks so much for having me. My name's Sean. I am going to skip my intro because I don't think that's interesting, but I'll talk about myself at the end if you want me to. I want to get into Power Automate. Before we do that, this is going to be really interactive. As Savannah mentioned, I would love to see you. I have 2 monitors. I would love to see you. I know you all have your cameras off. If you want to turn them on, it'd be great. No pressure. Before we get started, if you ever want to interrupt me, raise your hand, ask the chat. Hi, Grace. Feel free to. I would absolutely love to answer your questions live. All good. To prove how interactive this is, I need to gauge how deep I need to go with the tech. So can you please rank your Power Automate skills in the chat for me? Give me a 4 if you're really good at Power Automate. Give me a 3 if you're really good at Power Automate, but you don't like saying that, so you have imposter syndrome and you have a 3. Give me a 2 if you've done some stuff. Give me a 1 if you've done nothing. Let's see that. All right, we're all perfect. Sweet. Okay, John, Pradeep, you're the outliers. All right, well, we'll do a mix of levels here. All right. I think it's more fun to demo. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to show you various demos of how you could speed up your Power Automate flows, and it actually writes a lot less code. There's a lot of benefits for speeding up your flows. My favorite one is you get to go home early because it finished running faster and you got your results sooner. All right, so next point is, oh, by the way, there's going to be a surprise towards the end where we get to choose what we do. Depending on if you want to do Azure Functions, Graph API, whatever, we'll decide at the end. It's a choose your own adventure. All right, so I'm going to give a demo that involves an outdoor adventures company. So they have instructors and they have kayaking programs, biking programs. That's what's going on here. All right, enough of that. Let's jump into some flows and take a look at what's happening. So I have a flow here. And again, interrupt me if anything's confusing. It gets a list of instructors and it wants to check every day, are those instructors still valid? Like Pardeep teaches scuba diving. You don't want to learn from Pardeep if he's still not certified anymore because something bad could happen. So we get a list of instructors and we're going to go check if they're still valid. Any ones that are not valid, well, we're going to send an email saying like, hey, these instructors need to update their certificates. Cool? So jumping into what that actually looks like, if we go into here, I'll show you an example, is I get my list of instructors. They come in and look like this. Here they are. Cool. So as you can see here, I'll get out of the way. If we scroll down, there is their name, there is their age, there's their years at the company. Okay? Next thing I'm doing, I'm taking these instructors and I'm passing them into this child flow. Now, this child flow right here is checking their university and their licensure. Are they still valid? All right. Before we continue, we are running one action, an HTTP request, and then another HTTP request. So 2 in a row. Is there any way, does anyone know off the top of their head how to make this just go faster? Just a really simple thing. All right, I'll show you. This one's a little tricky. So what we can do here is instead we could do plus and add a parallel branch. And then I'm just going to pick any of these actions. It doesn't matter. And what it does here is it creates this branch out here. So a lot of people in Power Automate think I need to run one thing, then another, then another. No, they can run at the same time, and this is super easy. So I just go over here, drag it over here. I'm going to delete this one because it's unnecessary. And then, because I need this to connect again, I'm going to click here, and under Settings, I'm going to choose the other action. And then that's it. They're running at the same time. Boom, we just saved 3 seconds. So it's already faster, and I didn't really do much code. All right, let's keep going. So the next thing I do is I loop over every single instructor. And when I loop over the instructor, I create this new object where I have the name of the instructor, the years at the company, and their credential status. All right, this might be easier if I actually show you what that looks like. So let me get rid of that. If you look at the data, we go into here, and then here's the old thing we just talked about. And inside of here, here's an example of what we're creating. We're taking the instructor's name, years of company, and showing if their license is valid. And then we add that instructor to this variable, okay? So we loop all of them. This took about 2 seconds to run. And then in the end, we get something like this. Okay, so cool, we got all our instructors, great. It is running one at a time. Now, John Steele and Pradeep, I'm looking at you. What is one way I can make this whole thing run faster without writing any new code? Just a small configuration. John, do you know off the top of your head?
The only thing is limiting like page size or the result size.
Yeah, so you can limit the result size. That's one way. Pardeep, do you know any other ways? Thanks, John.
With batching them.
Yeah, so you can batch them up. So what you can do is, again, I'm not writing any new code. I'm clicking here. I'm going to settings, and watch this. I'm turning on concurrency. So now I am running them up to 50 at a time. That will make it go obviously much faster. Here is the warning of doing this. If you run them 50 at a time, if you only have like 6 records, you won't see the difference. It's only until you get to like 10 that you really see it. All right, so that works. It works great. But here's the thing. Whenever, and I think I have a slide for this to really emphasize this point. Whenever you have loops, they're caution signs. If you see a loop ever in code, that's a sign you should be careful that you could probably be doing it a different way. So what are we trying to do here? Back in our loop, does anyone know, John or Pradeep, I don't know if you've run into this, any way that you've seen that, actually, Aaron, you're a 3 as well. Any way I could avoid this loop completely, like not use this at all? Do you know? Cool, I'll show you. Here's what you do. There is an object, an action that I adore that I think is the most powerful one in Power Automate. It's called select. If I go in here and I choose select, what this allows me to do is take an array, a list, and then recreate it without using a loop. So I go in here and then I like select my source of wherever it was. I'd have to choose it from the when it originally came in, or sorry, I need to click instructors. And then once I do that, all I have to do in here is recreate what I did here. So in here, I'm creating this compose object, and then I'm adding this new instructor into this array. Like that's what I'm doing. I just have to do the same thing here in the select. So I'm going to go in here and add TOT name, and then I'm going to save you some time because I already did it. I'm going to delete this. I have it right here, kind of like a cooking show ready for you. So all I did is I took the name from the instructors list, I took their years at the company, and I took the credential status, and I put that all in here. So if we go back here, we saw that before I was appending it to an array, it took 2 seconds to run. Watch this. This select faster than a loop. This, look at the raw outputs, they're exactly the same. I did the same thing in this one action that I did using 1, 2, 3, 4 actions here. Awesome, right? So all of that is here. And then, yeah, it works great. So, but there's a danger to this that a lot of people kind of forget about when you're doing something like this. If you've noticed, our instructors originally came in looking like this. So it had their name, their age, their years at the company. We had this nice object. And then at the very end of this, what we're doing is we're creating this object that looks a little different. It's a little cleaner. And cleaner, people think it's good, but there's serious dangers with that. I'll show you. This is a nice like software principle. So if we come down here, and then in my final result, I'm not going to return the variable anymore. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and select the faster than a loop. That's the one we just made. And I want to show you something. In here, while that is saving, I am sending this email right here. Great, email body. And I said the first instructor's name is blah, blah, blah. Okay. But then I want to do this. And their age is, and I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it here. And let's go in here, just quickly edit it. I'm going to do TOT, let's do age. I'm going to get rid of that. I'll explain why in a second. Hit update, okay? And now I see what's going on. This is a separate thing. I'm gonna get rid of this so we don't have to deal with that right now. All right, let me try to save it again. Cool. So while this is saving, I'm now going to say, hey, show me the instructor's name and their age. So if we look right here, when this ran earlier, the result of this was there are 6 invalid instructors. The first instructor's name is Ahmed Habib. Well, that makes sense that I'm trying to see the instructor's name, because if you look in here at my original, not this one. If we look into all of my original items, there is their name, Ahmed Habib. Now, when I run this again, I want you to put in the chat, do you think this will break or not? Write the words either success or fail. In fact, you don't even have to write those words. Give me a thumbs up if you think it will work. Give me a clap if you think it'll fail. I'll give you 1 second. All right, we got a few people. Amanda's casting her vote. We've got some people think it's going to fail. All right, we'll see. All right, let's run it again, and we're going to see what goes on. We think it's going to be a success. Cool. It might. Let's see. Oh, no. It failed. Why did it fail? Let's zoom in and see what's going on here. Age cannot be evaluated. Age does not exist anymore. That doesn't make any sense, because if we look here, right here, clear as day, is age right there. Why is it failing? Does anyone want to bravely raise their hand and tell me why that failed?
Didn't your specs originally have it as just their name, their years of service, and their licensure? You didn't have the
Sorry,
specs
Amanda, can
for
you
their
repeat
age.
that?
On your original specs, you just had their name, their years of service, and whether they were licensed. You didn't have the specs for their age included.
Exactly. I didn't have their age, their specs. Aaron, were you going to say anything differently? No?
No, that's yeah. You change your values of what you're working with.
Exactly. So I took the original object and then I just went in there and modified it. Okay, so I created a new one. Your age does not exist. Exactly, James. And here's how people solve this problem. They go in here and they go TOT, okay, age. I'm sorry I broke it. So remember, if Ben and Grace are working together and Grace is building this flow and Ben is building this other flow, he's going to be like, Grace, what's going on here? I'm trying to use the age. Why doesn't it work anymore? And Grace is going to say, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go add that here. I'm going to go select this, come down here. I'll put it in and go in here and then zoom out. Cool. I'm going to do TOT age, okay? Here's my question. Will it work now? I'll save you some time here. It will. I see Savannah. Savannah, feel free to talk if you want instead of typing. But it's in here. This will totally work. But here is the problem with doing it this way. What you're going to end up doing is having to do it for almost, where are they? There are a lot of properties besides age. We've got SQL ID, we've got instructor ID, we got years of company. Like, this could keep growing. Like, are you seriously gonna, how you can copy paste? Yeah. Are you gonna seriously keep maintaining this? No, you're not. Here's how you solve this, and it comes from a software principle. So right here, I think it's more important that you understand this concept more so than you remember exactly how to do it, because you're gonna have this problem on anything you build. So we went here. It's this thing called the open-close principle. Has anyone here done JavaScript or .NET or any coding language like that? Can you give me a thumbs up if you've done something like that? All right, James has. Cool. So when you work in those languages, there's this concept of an open-close principle. The fancy way is open for extension, close for... The simple way to understand it is don't remove properties, and if you modify existing ones, be very careful. What we are doing is we are modifying properties and we're removing them. That is super dangerous. You want to watch out for that. When you have an original list, like, keep the list. If people later on depend on it. Otherwise, you get the error we just showed. So how do we prevent this? What are we supposed to be doing? So how it works is if we hop into here, And then instead, all of this select is all just incorrect. Here's what else we can do. And I think you're gonna love this if you haven't seen this before. I'm gonna switch this up. I'm gonna switch to text mode. I'm gonna come up here into the function expression. I am not gonna create a new object. I'm gonna keep the old one and add to it. There is literally a function called add property. You come in here, you have to type in the word item. You just have to, because that's the term for the previous item in here. So you just type in item. Whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it TOT license status. And then at the very end, you come in here and select whatever property you were working with. So where did I put that here? Credential status. Cool. I do this, and then that's it. This right here, again, much less code than what I just showed you, and it works great. So I'm going to actually, I have it, it ends up looking like this. Exact same thing, okay? So if you don't believe me, watch this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to come down here and let me refresh real fast because I don't want to save any of that work I just did. I'm going to not use the old select. I'm going to use the new select and I'm going to pass it down. So in here, I'm going to go and I have this one called select not dropping things. I'm going to take that, and in my final result, I'm going to use that instead here, and we're going to see the difference. All right, so select not dropping things, hit save. And if you don't believe me that this works, watch this. Select not dropping things, if we zoom in, this one, we're losing a bunch of stuff. This one, look at that. I have all of my original stuff. Plus, I have this fancy new thing called credential status at the bottom. It added to it and preserved the original list. This is a best practice. So now if we come in here and remember this, that it failed, I'm going to run it again. And I want you to give me a thumbs up if you think it's going to work and a clap if you think it's going to fail. Here we go, because you're all off camera, so I don't know what you're thinking anymore. So thumbs up if you think it works, clap if you think it'll fail. Let's run it. All right, thanks, James, for the vote. It totally worked. It worked because, and look, instructor's name is Habib, and their age is 31. So this way, you don't have to worry if the code you're using is going to break things later. Awesome. Let's move on. So we got through that one. Some other things where this gets really helpful is if you're using XML. So give me a thumbs up if you've not really used XML before inside of Power Automate, just so I can get an idea. So all of you have used XML. Give me a thumbs up if you have not. Okay, Pradeep hasn't really used it. Savannah hasn't. Grace, Roger, cool. Okay, so half of you haven't really used it. Fetch XML, cool, close, but this one, John, you're going to love it. I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you'll hate it, but I think you're going to adore this. So check this out. So I have this flow right here. Cool. And then here's some previous runs of it. All right. What this one is doing is, well, let me give you higher context. So I have this system here called instructors. Let me show you them here. Cool. Instructors. I'm going to click on that, and hopefully you'll get a nice view of all the records. All right. So I have, come on, random instructors in my system. They teach activities. Here are their names. All right. I have a SharePoint list that also has instructors. For some reason, all the languages that the instructors speak are stored in the SharePoint list. Here's their SQL ID. And we also keep the same instructors in here. What I'm about to show you is how to take this list of instructors and combine them with this list, as in we're going to take this languages spoken and we're going to attach it to this list. And guess what? We're going to do it in very little code. So check this out. If we go into here, and I have, that's the actual run of it. Let's go here. The first thing I'm doing is I have all my list of instructors from SharePoint. They're in here. It's exactly what I showed you earlier. There they are. There's the activity. There's the language they speak. This is what we want. And here's their name. And we're going to use this ID to match them to Dataverse. All right. So Next, if we come into here, the first thing we do is we have to prepare our XML. So to prepare our XML, all we do is we're taking, and I'll zoom in for you. All we're doing is taking our SharePoint list and adding them to this JSON right here. Cool. Next thing we do, if we go past all of this, is we're going to take that and we're going to convert it to XML. Now the XML is going to look like garbage. You're not going to like it, but you will like it in a second. So in here, I've prepared the XML, and it looks like this, like borderline unusable. But watch this. If I go in here and I paste it, and let me quickly format it. Cool. Here's all our results as XPath, as XML. Here's the first name, here's the last name, here's whatever. This right here is using XPath expressions. It's something that before I knew this, I was doing this in Power Automate and my code got crazy. But I can use this instead, and it's going to be so much more efficient. But let me break it down what we're doing so it really makes sense. So if we go into here and I type in an expression like this, root, this is selecting everything. But if I go in there and then I type in SQL ID equals, I don't know, 5, it's selected only the one where the SQL ID equals 5 out here. And then let me switch it up. I'll do it 1. Now it's selected Tamaya Johnson. Okay, it's selected the whole object. I can get this to be even more specific. I can go into here and be like, don't give me the whole thing. I want you to give me a very specific property on there, Portuguese. There. Do you see the magic here? You're going to see it in a second even more so. So I am, just by writing this one tiny expression, able to select random properties on here. And here's where it gets really cool. So if we go in here and we keep going, I have this join statement where I just dynamically created this. And is this looking familiar to you? It should. I'll just, to remind you, I'm going to highlight it here, and then let's hop over here. It's literally the same thing as this. That's all I'm doing. But now I'm selecting it dynamically based on their SQL ID from the result. Okay, but here's what's crazy. Now that I have this, we can use that add property we used earlier. So we can take these languages and put them back onto the original array. Hi, Yonki. So if we go in here, I'm going to close this. And then we do select join. Let me show you the code. In here, we have this concat. That's just what I showed you just now. If we look at the join, here's that add property I showed you earlier. And if we hover over it, and I'll zoom in to make it a little easier for you to see here. Does this look from, actually, why don't I just show you a way cooler tool than this? Watch this. So I don't know if you guys have explored Copilot, GitHub Copilot, but that's going to be pretty amazing. All right, watch this. So I'm going to make a new text file. And we're going to come in here. I'm going to do Control-I, and I'm going to say format this and make it prettier. And I'm going to paste that in here. Wicked, right? Just totally wrote that for me. All right, but let's zoom in because that wasn't what I was trying to show you here. So in here, as you'll notice, I'll zoom in even more for you. Right here, I have that item I showed you last time with add property. You just need to throw that in there. You throw in languages spoken because that's just the name I want it to be. And then at the very end, I have that same XML that basically says, hey, from Dataverse, go match on SharePoint using the SQL ID and then select the languages spoken. All right. Any questions here, by the way? I know this is like crazy stuff happening right now. We good? All right. I haven't seen. All right. Good. Seems like we're good. All right. So if we actually run this, what the final result I end up getting once I do this join is, remember, my data came in like this, where I had all the instructors. You've seen this earlier. Nothing impressive. And what just happened? Let's go to the outputs. Look at this brand new thing we have here, languages spoken. I just took something from SharePoint, attached it to Dataverse, and I only did that in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 actions. Other people, and the way I used to do it, is they would have crazy for loops trying to do this, but no, you could just do it in for. And honestly, you don't even really need this one. You could have removed this one. Any questions about that, or anyone very impressed, because I am? Is there an advantage to using XML over just doing JSON operations? Is it because if you keep it in JSON, you have to, yes, you'd have to select the loop and you would have to do a bunch of gnarly expressions. Exactly. Great question, John. Anyone else, any questions before we move on? All right. So John was thinking, yeah, maybe I could do this in JSON and maybe it might be a little extra code, but then actually I'm very curious what James has to say. Let me show you something that will be kind of way more of a nightmare if you try to do it in JSON. So right here, if we keep going, we're going to do a group by. All right. So we're going to do something even more insane. So what we're going to do is let's look at it like this. So I have a bunch of ratings here. So remember the SQL ID earlier from here? So SQL ID 2, Saiju. So Saiju has been getting ratings. He got, where is it? It's in here. He got a rating of 4. Then later on, he got a rating of 2. Later on, he got a rating of 5. Okay. Let's say I want to take all of Saiju's ratings. I want to group them, and I want to summarize them, and I want to put that back on the property. Okay, I'm going to take these, group them, find Saiju in my Dataverse list, and then I'm going to add this. This would be insane to try to do this in Power Automate without Fetch XML. So what are we going to do? If we go in here, and I'm going to do the same thing as last time, I'm going to prepare for XML, same as you saw last time, and then I'm going to actually turn it into Fetch XML, or I'm going to turn it into XML. What's the best way to copy the raw code off of Vue to Notepad? James, that's a long question. I'm going to read that in a second, and I will answer that. So we could take this XML here, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to paste it here. Let's format it. Okay, very, very cool. And then inside of here, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go and do something like this. Watch closely. I'm going to go and I want to do an expression. So here I have, let's do root array, and you've already seen this one, SQL ID equals 5. Cool. So it selected all the ones with SQL ID equals 5. Let's just do 2. Let's do the Saiju example. All right, Saiju got a rating of 4, 2, and 5. Okay, that's kind of cool. But then if I go here and I just select rating, cool, here's his ratings. Watch this. I'm going to go at the very beginning, and I'm going to type in the word sum, and I'm going to take that, wrap it up, 11. It just summarized it for me. And it's not just limited to sum. I can also do other expressions, like I can do average, 3.66, blah, blah, blah. I think you're starting to see what's going to happen here. I'm going to use this same thing, and now I'm going to connect it, and I hope this is zoomed in enough for you. I'm going to take this and connect it back to the table we had earlier, the same way we did languages. So in here, we had the, I have my ratings, and then in my select, again, I'm doing add property. So this one is the same one we had last time. Let me zoom in and snag it. The only difference here is I'm using the sum expression from earlier. But look, I'm still doing the same thing where I'm matching on the SQL ID, same as last time. All right, and what does this get me? In the end, and this is bananas, this is what my array looked like earlier. I had languages spoken, which was pretty cool that we added that. And then we kept going. And what I just did just now is I added languages spoken, and check out this bananas thing. I got their ratings. I grouped them and I summarized them and I put them back on here. And by the way, this is for everybody. Everybody's got ratings now. So I did all that, all with, how many lines of code are we in right now? Let's go back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, even though I could have done it in 3. Like, that blew my mind when I first saw it, because otherwise, kind of what John was talking about, if you try to do that in with JSON and expressions, like it would be very, very long, hard to maintain code. Okay, what's the best way to copy the raw code out of edit in Notepad, paste it back in the flow? Yeah, in that case, you're gonna have to just like copy this, paste it in, There are plugins that can help you. Like you can have certain Chrome extensions where you can save snippets of your Power Automate code. I know David Wyatt talks about those a lot. You can use some of those. So James, I would look at those if you're doing a lot of that. Cool. Any questions on this before we kind of move on from here? Good to know. You're welcome. Sweet. So Savannah, I want to make sure I'm conscientious of time. I think I have 20 minutes left. Is that right, or do I have less?
Yep, you have until 12:30 EST.
Perfect. All right. We'll keep going. All right. Next thing. When we get into performance, it gets fascinating because right now I'm going to go in a completely different direction. Let's go into and talk about Graph API, but let me quickly look at my slide to make sure I didn't forget to tell you anything that's super important about this. Now we're good. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you've used the, and everyone's off camera now. That's sad. I miss seeing you all. Oh, well. Has anyone here, give me a thumbs up if you've used the Graph API. Thank you, James. Welcome back. Hey, Pradeep. Has anyone used the Graph API before? Give me a thumbs up if you have. All right, Pradeep's a rock star. All right, the Graph API is fascinating. Here's what it can do. When you use, let's stick with SharePoint. When you use, as you can tell here, I'm going to do a lot of SharePoint manipulation, but you don't see any SharePoint actions here. What everyone does, and what I did early on, is I would go in here and type in SharePoint, and then I would see all the things I can do with SharePoint. This is cool, but this is not everything you can do in SharePoint. You also have inside of here, if you use the Graph API, I should have had it up here, Graph API, Microsoft. If you use the Graph API, what you get is a lot more options than just this. You literally have all of the power of SharePoint in here. The Power Automate team hasn't finished adding them, so that's why we have to do things like use the Graph API. For instance, here's one. This action right here, get all sites. What I'm doing is I'm typing in my SharePoint address, typing in sites, and what this can do is this can show me all of the sites in my SharePoint. It can also do things like search on sites, like show me all the sites that have the name video in it, something I cannot do with just the SharePoint action. So it's a lot more powerful. But here's where it gets very, very cool. Let's say I have, and by the way, I haven't tested this live this morning, so we'll see if this works. I have this list called Excel, right? I'm going to come in here, and then what I'm going to do But as we learned, I think it was Pradeep who pointed it out. If I go in here and under settings, I'm going to make this run super fast. All right. So we're going to see what happens here. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it. And let me make sure this isn't on just for my own sanity. Yes, keep that on. This is just what I just, let me zoom in because zoom out. This right here, when I go into here and I click settings, or sorry, testing, this prevents this code from running. That's all I'm trying to do. All right, so we're going to run this Excel. We're going to see what happens. All right, let's refresh and go. And yes, I will be asking you a question about this in like 2 seconds when this is running. All right, it's running. It's running. Let's go here. Ooh, we got stuff. Very, very cool. All right. Does anyone see it ran? It was pretty fast. It took, I don't know, like 6 seconds to run. It's not bad. I mean, if you have thousands of records, it's going to take forever, but that's not what we're talking about yet. Does anyone see a problem with this? I'll just leave this on here until somebody can spot it. There's a small issue here. It's not the spelling. Nice, James. You're a little too fast. I should have, James, from now on, I'm going to ban you from answering questions right away. So here, as you can tell, James called it out. The sorting is wrong. Yeah, that's a downside when you use this, when you go into here and under settings, and then you do this. is the sorting is going to be out of order. So many people I've seen so many messages from people on my team who are like, oh, it's off. I don't see why they're not in order. I don't even look at the code. I just ask them, do you have concurrency control turned on? If you do, that's the problem. All right, we're going to turn this off. If we turn this off, yes, it will work. But here's the problem. Now it's going to be super slow running one at a time. So let me delete all this and prove something else here. I'm going to go in here, delete that. And cool. Those are all gone. Great. Let's go and modify this slightly. Instead, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to hit the graph API. Now, all of this random code here, you can generate it yourself. You just go here and you could do things like get me all my, I'll zoom in. You can do things like get me all my sites, get the files in my site, get specific files. Once you do all of this, I'll show you what it looks like. Once you do all of this, wrong one. Where is it here? Is it because it's, I turn it off so it doesn't run. All right, yeah. The point is all of these will give you these specific numbers in here that I'm passing in. That's how I'm getting those IDs, all right? So then what I'm doing is down here, I'm taking that activities list from earlier and I'm passing it in right here. So now let's see, I'm going to test this. So testing is off. So we're going to actually run it. Cool. And then let's turn testing on for here because I don't want this getting confused. In fact, let's make this even more interesting. We're going to run both. We're going to run the Excel and this to really prove the point. Let's turn concurrency on. We'll turn it up to 50. So we're good there. Let's hit save. And I'm going to run it again. So we're going to get 2 times the amount of results in the Excel. All right. So we're good here. This is good. Cool. All right. Let's run it again and we're going to see what happens. Any questions so far, by the way, while this runs? All right, seems like we're good. Cool, it did this, let's go here. Oh man, that's so nicely sorted. Isn't that pretty and helpful? And then, oh my God, who is the intern who was hired for this? That's what's going on here, is right now, because I use the graph API, I got it fully sorted, unlike this mess. And also, let's look at this. This took 2 seconds to run. This took 4 seconds, 2 seconds per row. 4 times 2, 8. Like, we're looking at something that's going to take a lot longer. So this is A, faster, and B, keeps it all nicely sorted. Great. Let's move on to another example. Do we have any Dynamics 365 model-driven apps people? Can you give me a thumbs up so I know who you are? All right, we got James is one, Grace is another. Okay, all right. Then this is going to be helpful. The rest of you, if you don't work with Dataverse, feel free to ignore me for the next 30 seconds. All right, so we're going to go do the same concept, but now we're going to go do it in Dataverse. So if I hop into here, all right, and this will actually work. You need to see the actual results. So let me go in here and go under my tasks. All right. You're not a member of this. Come on, do the thing. No, really? That's annoying. All right. So what I have here is I can go into here and let me show you an actual run. Let me run it now, see if this works. I'm worried this demo totally crashed. Let's go to the flow runs page so I can show you what's going on. I was so worried about getting the Excel right, I forgot to test out this one. All right, let's go. All right, it's doing this. Okay, this one I think this one worked. Cool. So we're good there, blah, blah, blah. All right, so what is this doing? It's getting all the files from my system. All right, so I have random ones in here, okay? So like I have this marketing file and da-da-da, I have this logos file. I've got all these files. It doesn't really matter the details of them. And then I want to take these files, and then I'm building this like variable here. And let me show you the inputs here, what this actually looks like. Ah, there it is. Cool. Oh, it makes it one giant thing. Oh, here we go. This will be a lot easier to see. Man, the form. All right, we're going to have to look at it in here. what it's doing is I'm making a separate, I'm not using the Dataverse action. I'm using the Graph API, and I'm carefully constructing this dynamically where I'm taking all my files, I'm taking the name of my file, and I'm turning them into a subject for a task. So here I have a logo file, here I have a marketing file, here I have like vector files, whatever. And then if I hop into my, not Power Automate, let's go to Power Apps. If I hop into Power Apps and I go to my tasks area, what's going to happen is in here, let me turn this on here. I should see when I run this, it actually, oh, it's because I'm in the wrong one. I'm supposed to be here. What should happen is it's going to go ahead and create all those tasks, not one at a time, but in one go. So for some reason, it has me logged out, which is kind of annoying. Oh, man, you guys aren't going to be able to see the result. That's not as fun. Let me see if it's in here. Can I do it in here? I don't think I can. Man, all right. So generally how it would work is, the point is, and I can pull up my 15-minute warning, you're doing great. All right, great. Well, it's also terrific because I'm running out of time on this. So in here, what it's going to do is I can take this call and it worked here 200. All right. This isn't as fun. You can't see it here. I would love to show you it in my actual Dynamics environment, but I can't get it open right now. I'll try to do it if there's time in a Q&A. What this is doing is it's taking all of my SharePoint records, and then it's going to go create them in my model-driven app, in my table, all in one go. It is not looping. If you don't believe this works, container tabs are your front end. Yeah. If you don't believe this works, my YouTube video will walk you all the way through it. I'll send that out because I can't get this demo to work. So instead, I'm going to go off script and show you a slightly different demo. Before I do that, this is the time where we get into the choose your own adventure. I can show you something with Azure Functions, or I can show you something with custom connectors. What are you more interested in? And you have to vote fast because I only have about like 7 minutes. All right, throw it in the tab. Do you want custom connector or do you want Azure Function? Custom connector, Azure. Okay, got it. All right. We got half and half votes. Fine, we'll be fine. You guys want custom, I'll show you custom. And that one's nice too because you can build this really quickly. All right, so in here, if we go into our, let's go back into Power Automate. There's this area called custom connectors. Most people think of these as something where, oh, I'm going to use these to connect to another external API. Yes, it can do that. It can do something that I think is also as powerful, and this literally, you can build this just using ChatGPT. There's an area called code. So down here, if we look at this, all I put is, I wrote the word home. This custom connector connects to nothing. But if I go in here, I have this area called code. And if you look in here, I have this nice C# code that I just had ChatGPT tell me, and I'll show it to you here. I think I have it. Cool. Yeah, here it is. Here is my code. Again, ChatGPT helped me write this. And what it's doing is it is taking a phone number, and after it takes the phone number, it formats it into the format I want. What format do I want? Well, I think I wrote it in here, actually. Under definition. Cool. No matter what number I get, it's going to go format it into 99999 with these dashes and with these parentheses. If you try to build a Power Automate function to do this, again, it will take you a lot of lines of code. And I don't even know how possible it is, because there could be so many different versions of a phone number. And I'll show you. So right here, I have this weird phone number. It's in this format. And then what I'm doing is down here, I am passing it into my custom connector. And by the way, if you want to see this from the beginning, how I even got here, I can go into here, add action, and then under custom, come on. Man, this is great. Just demos. All right. Can you all pretend it's here? Like, just pretend something is appearing there. All right, thank you for your imagination, because once it appears there, what it looks like is this. And this is clearly a custom connector that I made, because as you know, I don't think that Microsoft likes to put guitars and the words Bon Jovi inside of their icons. So this one is the one I made. And then I'm passing in the phone number, and we're going to see what happens. So if we go into here, and then where are we? Let me run it again. Come on, be on my side here. Do I have too many tabs open? Is that why all this is crashing? Let's refresh it. All right, I'm going to close some of these to make it go faster. Great stuff, right? All right, so this is a good lesson. I should make this into a video next time so I could just quickly show you what's going on here because this is unfortunate. Come on, load. All right, I'm going to pull it up again, and we should be all right. Man, this one flow is ruining it and making it so nothing is appearing. Come on. All right, so I guess I'll walk through what it does, and then I'll pause, and hopefully this will appear in a second. What it's doing is it's going to take that phone number, pass it into here, and what it's going to do is output the phone number, but it's going to be formatted. You can reuse these custom connectors here, and you can have it do whatever C# code you want in here. Like I did it with phone numbers, but you can do other stuff. Like you can use it with regex, which doesn't exist in Power Automate. You could do that. I've seen people create zip files with this. I've seen people do really complex queries that they couldn't do with Power Automate. Let me see. Oh, here's one from an hour ago. Does it have to be C#? Can we use Python? No. But what you can do, James, is you can use Python and Azure Functions. And if I had more time today, I would run you through a demo of that. So let me rerun this. So no, it has to be that. But yeah, you can use Azure Functions are a bit more complicated, but I'm actually happy you mentioned that. So if we're comparing these to Azure Functions, there's some big gotchas here. The first one is if you're trying to use an external library, like let's say you want to use a PDF formatting tool that's not part of the C# ecosystem, you're not allowed to. You're going to have to use an Azure function. Also, here's the giant downside to this. Guess how many seconds you have that this can run, the limit. Anybody want to take a guess? Just throw it in chat. How long do you think this can run for? 30 seconds, good guess. Any other guesses? Come on, guys, I'm buying times until this flow loads. 120, all great guesses. So far, the closest has been James. This thing will run for max 5 seconds. It's better finish fast or you're gone. Luckily, that happens fairly often. Oh, man, this thing, I have to rechange the headers, whatever. All right. Can you take my word for it that this totally works? If you don't believe me, my YouTube channel totally has it. And maybe I can run it just from here. Let me try that. I will do it here. While I load this up and try to make this actually do something, does anybody have any questions about anything I've kind of showed as we're wrapping up here today? Or were we all good? All right, it seems like so far no questions. Awesome. All right, let me just quickly snag this and I'll try to do it here. We'll see if this works. This is going to be kind of ambitious because I'm just trying to do this live right now. All right, I selected all of these. We're going to put it in here. No idea if this will actually work, but isn't it way more fun that way? So, oh, it's making me sign in. Yeah, I'm signed in. All right, run flow, instructors. All right, I've got like, I'm like 30% confident this will actually work. Wait, what's this? Did it actually work? That's gonna be hilarious. Custom connector Azure function. All right, here's my weird phone number that I passed in earlier. And then at the very end here, I'm passing it to this thing. Here's my ugly phone number. And what I get on the other side is a perfect phone number. I told you I was not lying to you. This totally works. All right, great. Ta-da. So I'm happy that actually worked. Oh, I have one more slide. Let me throw it in here and then it will close up. Yeah. Thank you, Savannah and the Indiana User Group. If you want to connect with me, I run the Architects Accelerator. It's a training to help people become a solutions architect. It's pretty awesome. Feel free to go to the website if you want to sign up and mention you were in this class, because then you will get a discount. Wait, Savannah, am I allowed to advertise, or should I shut up now?
Just go for it.
Okay, sweet. That's my ad. I'm Sean. There's my LinkedIn. Yeah, I contract for Microsoft. I do all kinds of things, but I'm happy to answer any questions about me. But I feel like you care more about Power Automate than my hobbies, so I wanted to get there. So yeah, we got our next group starting in December if you want to join us. Yeah, and thank you so much for watching and being here with all of us. Savannah, that's all I got.
All right. Yeah, thanks guys for attending. Thanks, Sean, for an awesome session. This will be posted to YouTube on the Dynamics User Group YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch it, it'll be there.
Thank you,
Alright.
guys.
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Good
Bye.
meeting all of you.
Thank you.